I think there are several contestants or people who compete every year who are obsessed, and it's all about the trophy.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, again, no disrespect for Dwayne as
Absolutely
well.
none.
And again, I felt you win because you're my friend. So we root for our friends.
And the check did clear.
Yeah, okay. And you make no
Speak for
apologies
yourself,
for rooting for we make no apologies for rooting for our friends. So again, it was what it was. So hey, you're here now, man.
Absolutely.
But I look at the fact that you went and gave a keynote speech that is incredibly powerful because you went through that.
Yeah.
And whenever I heard you tell that story for the first time, I was blown away.
Well, you know what?
Wow.
The story I mentioned earlier of one of my speeches that David Brooks said was thin because it was predictable. One of the things he said was, we learn so much more in moments of defeat or pain than we learn in moments of victory. And
so you learned a lot.
So I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and I learned more than I would have had things in 2002 been the end of my contest career.
I remember from the early days of stand-up comedy that I learned from my mentors that exact lesson, that you learn so much more from a difficult comedy club situation than you'll ever learn at Nick's Comedy Stop in the perfect environment with 200 people laughing and joking. Yeah. My mentors would ask me, but how did it go when you were in the tough room?
Right.
Because that's really where you find out, just like you, what jokes really worked.
Yeah. Right.
How did you decide to pick the openings you picked for that type of audience? When I give speeches, it's obviously a much smaller crowd than this. And I'll pan over here for a minute just to show you just how big the room is empty. You see all of these empty chairs, and each one of these sections has a good 300 chairs in it, and they're not even done setting it up. There's going to be roughly 2,000 people here. And I stood up on the stage while you guys were talking earlier and imagined myself on the stage and how I would do one of my speech openings, and I thought, would that even work in this crowd versus the crowds I'm used to speaking in? And I've spoken in front of 100 or more, but nowhere near thousands.
I've got two ideas on that one, please. Thought number one is I like what I call the CSI opening. Now, if you've ever watched a television series, it doesn't matter which flavor you like, every version of CSI starts off with the scene of the crime. And I like to open up that way. So my opening line for my championship speech is, I'm tearing off a piece of paper, there you are, Mr. Tate, next time drive a little slower. So we start off with the scene of the crime. So that's my favorite style to open up a presentation. So that's number one. Number two, I got that opening literally while in a shower.
Really?
I was in the shower.
So
and all of a sudden,
here's the key to better speaking. Shower more. Yes. Especially during contest season.
I was
squeaky clean.
I got the idea, and then I've heard this once, I think Craig said this, is that you've only got 37 seconds to capture an idea. I literally ran out of the shower. I'm naked. We're looking for a pen. I only found the shower. This is not pretty.
Yeah, we're gonna pan away now.
Put this on video. But I grabbed the Sharpie. I wrote down as fast as I possibly can. I mean, there's water stains, all types of things, but to capture that opening. Yeah. It came to me in one of those flashes, and I captured it.
I think one of the other things noticed with Ed's opening is the ticket. We could all relate to that moment. But that's
some of us more than others. Yes. Yes.
Well, you did mention the crash earlier.
Yes, I did.
The one other I would wonder is, you come, like you said, every night beforehand, you look at the stage, you stand up here, you look out among the empty seats, and maybe even have some friends in or not, but it's not going to be that way during the actual contest. And you also see where everything is set up here, and you can see there's a lectern over here and all the different flags. How do you deal with the change from your expectation that night? If you walk up and suddenly there's a table in a different spot than you expected, or your spots have been removed, or what type of changes like that have happened, and how do you deal with them?
Well, one of the things I would say is that if people make it a point to study some of the past championships, they're going to have a general idea of what to expect with the stage layout. They're going to know there's not going to be a lot of tables. They're going to know the lectern is going to be completely on one side of the stage. And when I won in 2003, I think it's the first time it's ever been done. They had the lectern over on stage left, and we entered from stage right. Every other year, it was vice versa. Yeah. And in fact, that was one thing, a change that just kind of came up the day of, because there were some things backstage that they couldn't stage it that way. And one of the guys asked me, they asked all the contestants, but they asked me, is it going to bother you if the stage is flip-flopped? And my response was, I don't care about how the stage is set up. I just need to get to it. And that's you got to be able to be flexible in that moment. And there are going to be things that are different. When you come in here right now, I can see all these chairs. Day of, I might be able to see just a little bit. And I got to be able to imagine there's people there and make eye contact with the darkness and know that they sense that.
I think also we've put in so much work. By the time the contest has rolled around, I don't think there's anything that can shake us at that point. I really don't. I believe that to be true. Because Darren, you actually dropped your microphone in the middle of your speech, but you wouldn't know it unless you look for it.
I was cheering at that point.
Not loud enough.
I know.
No, but one of the things I did, and any good preparation tips I think would be helpful too. One of the things I did to help me with that is actually in my practice intentionally distract myself. And as I got to the final practices, I would ask people, my friends, while I was practicing, to get up and try and distract me. And I actually would play Simply the Best by Tina Turner and crank it to force myself to internalize that info. But I think those distractions were helpful. So in the moment when things happen, that it doesn't distract you because you're in the moment, you're able to improv. One other tip that I did is I'm horrible at memorizing. So I literally took pieces of paper, and where my 4 spots were, or 5 spots were, I took a piece of paper, VNI, valuable negative information. That goes over there. Mom and Dad, I want to be a comedian. That goes here. Subway, the step after that goes here. Blah, blah. So I had it laid out on the stage, and when I practiced in my hotel room, I laid it out on the stage, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is that story. This is that story. And people thought it was great to stop me from going back and forth, but really that wasn't the motivation. It was okay, Darren, anchor. Here's where we tell this story. Then we tell this story, Darren. It was almost like making it easier.
I also practice with distractions. I would recite the text of my speech on the treadmill. I practiced it in the sauna. With the distraction of the heat, I stayed in
More
the sauna.
visuals we don't want.
Clothed, but I stayed in longer than I probably should have from a health standpoint. But it was demanding physically.
No red cards in the sauna.
No, there were no. I saw blurry lights, but I would practice with distraction because if anything happened, I wanted to be able to not be distracted. And you had one of the greatest stages that I've seen at the contest as far as solid stages.
Yes.
03, the stage was horrible because every other step was a loud squeak and a creak, and you just had to be able to tune it out.
Wow. Yeah, you had the toughest stage in the history of the contest.
Well, there is, I do want to talk about one other thing in terms of our preparation, and that is mentally, moments before we go out on stage. My experience was, I can't think of the gentleman's name. He was 6'9", and he was the guy who actually put the microphone on us. And there were a couple of, imagine there were 2 of these right here. And it was behind stage, and I was in between them, and I felt like a horse in a stall, just getting ready to go, and he was holding me back, Yeah. And then he caught me, and I said to myself, you know what, I need to, number one, I need to pray. So I literally just calmed down, said a silent prayer to myself, and I reminded myself it wasn't about me, and I said, there's somebody in this audience who needs to hear this message. Dear God, please don't let me get in the way. And those are the words I said to myself just before I went on stage. And I said to myself, I'm ready. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. And for the next 7.5 minutes, I'm going to have a great deal of fun. And then I went out on the stage. So I literally had no fear once I came out there.